Hello, everyone, and welcome to another community conversation. We are live here on Facebook and on Channel 20. And this is Mayor Eric Papenfuse. Thanks for joining us Fridays at noon for these important conversations. We have an action-packed show for you today and a lot of very important guests. We will be joined by Harrisburg School Superintendent, Mr. Christopher Selmer, to give us an update on the district. We'll also be joined by Amy Hill, who is the Broad Street Market Board Chair and also the Central PA Food Bank Community Engagement and Advocacy Director. We will, after that, talk a little bit about the Payroll Protection Program as well as SBA lending with Natalie Falatek, who is the first Vice President and the Director of SBA lending for Penn Bank. And then we will have a conversation with Sheila Dow Ford, Executive Director of Impact Harrisburg, and Ms. Nona Watson, the Economic Development Director for the City of Harrisburg, about the new partnership that has formed a neighborhood revitalization grant program, neighborhood business program, which is launching today and which could be of great benefit to businesses throughout the city. So a large agenda. I want to start with a few general announcements. And I thought I could begin with a comment about the protests on Monday. I know that many people felt traumatized and indeed invaded by all the people that came to Harrisburg to have their voices heard on Monday. I am pleased to report that there were no altercations or EMS calls during the event. It was unfortunate in many respects that so many people ignored the social distancing guidelines, but we had a strategy, and that strategy was to try and keep our first responders safe, to keep our residents safe, and to not fan the flames of what was already a difficult situation. And I guarantee you, if we had tried to stop that rally, we only would have made things worse. So again, pleased to report no EMS calls, no physical alterations or problems during the event, and hopefully that is behind us. Also, an update, you may have heard that there was a Harrisburg police officer who was diagnosed this past week with COVID-19. That is true, and he is at home recovering from his symptoms with his family, and we wish him well. There are, at this time, no other reports of any police officers or firefighters, for that matter, with symptoms, and we've instituted some new protocols since that development, including mandatory temperature checks for police officers at roll calls and some other things. So wishing the officer well and hoping that it is just an isolated incident. Also wanted to give you an update on our community policing partnership with both the food bank and the school district. As you know, we have been giving away thousands of pounds of food on a regular basis at many sites through Harrisburg. Last week, we added the Heinz Menaker Center as a distribution point, and this past week, we've just added in LHAC, the Cultural Center, as another distribution site. That's 8 total sites, and again, that food is being distributed to anyone in need, regardless of circumstance. Just show up on Thursdays from 4 to 6 p.m. Earlier the better at the various sites, including now LHAC. You may notice in short order here coming up on May 1st that construction will be resuming both in the city and throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. That was a recent announcement by Governor Wolf this week. It will be noticeable in Harrisburg. You'll start to see some construction work, at least city construction work in Mulder Square and along McClay Street. There may be other construction work that will resume. There will be no other changes in the stay-at-home order other than construction beginning on May 1st, and I would not expect any changes for Harrisburg or for Dauphin County on May 8th when the governor begins to relax that order potentially for some western or central PA counties. A large talk of today's show is going to be about neighborhood businesses and how we can help them. I wanted to just share a little data that we have collected as a city from our neighborhood business survey. First thing you should know is that we've got about 1,750 small businesses in Harrisburg, licensed that we can tell. And each one of those businesses received a letter from the city that went out yesterday, should be receiving it today or at the latest Monday, inviting them to apply for this new grant fund that we're going to talk about that opens today. A couple interesting facts about the survey. About a third of the people, at least that responded, of small businesses in Harrisburg are sole proprietors. And then an additional 40% have only 1 to 5 employees. So you're dealing with extremely small businesses for the most part in Harrisburg, and that is exactly the target audience for the Neighborhood Stabilization Grant Program. The top need in our survey was working capital, and that was an overwhelming need for these businesses at this time, and that is certainly an eligible expense that we'll talk about. All right, I'm going to now turn things over and engage our guests, and we'll begin with Superintendent Christopher Selmer with the Harrisburg School District. As many of you know, the partnership with Channel 20 and the school district on programming is continuing and doing very well. I understand, Mr. Superintendent, that you have some important news today, especially regarding a new grant, which will be a benefit to Harrisburg School District students. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mayor, for having me again this afternoon. So, yes, I'm very excited to announce that the Pennsylvania Department of Education has awarded the Harrisburg School District a Continuity of Education Equity Grant in the amount of $261,582. We applied for this grant several weeks ago. It was a quick turnaround, a 5-day window to apply for it, where we had to put together justification on why we believe Harrisburg is deserving of funding. And I'm pleased to report, we got 100% of the ask that we applied for within the grant. And what this is going to allow us to do is continue to enhance our continuity of education planning as we move through the spring and into next school year. And this specific grant will allow us to expand our technology reach into our elementary grade band, which we find to be very exciting. It will be a nice complement to the next device rollout that we are going to do, which will be next week. We are going to do another device distribution for another grade band within the Harrisburg School District. Information will go out to parents early next week, and the distribution will happen to the middle to the end of next week. So again, we're very excited about the grant. We'll keep families posted as we move through the process of finalizing the plan for the utilization of the grant funds. And again, there'll be lead time because with devices, we're going to have to order, etc. So it's not something that's going to, flip of a switch and we'll have devices tomorrow. But again, it really gives us another layer of connectivity that we'll be able to provide for our youngest learners in the Harrisburg School District. So we are very excited and very appreciative of the PA Department of Education for entrusting these funds to the Harrisburg School District.
That's terrific and really good to hear, and I'm glad that we're going to be able to reach down into some of the younger grades with the device distribution. I know that's something that you've wanted to do. How is the rollout going, and is there a new communication tool that is going to help the district in communicating?
Yes, so thank you, Mayor. I'm excited to also announce that Monday night at our business meeting, the receiver approved the district the ability for us to purchase a new app through Blackboard Connect that we will launch within the next 2 to 3 weeks. And what that allows is for our parents and families with devices, either a device or a phone, to download this app, and then that'll give us another avenue to push information directly to our parents as we move through the spring, summer, into next school year. So the app was an initiative we were planning pre-COVID, but certainly we were happy we were able to continue on that initiative and bring it to fruition and have it approved on Monday night. So we will share, again, information in the coming weeks with our parents and families regarding that new app.
Fantastic. And I know it's hard to look ahead as we're trying to plan a budget for next year with all the uncertainty that's going on, but nonetheless, the city has to, we have to start planning financially. Is there an upcoming workshop, and how can people get involved if they want to know more about the budget process moving forward?
It's a very good question, Mayor. On May 11th at 6 p.m., the district virtually will have a comprehensive budget workshop. And per PDE state requirements, we need to have an approved budget 30 days before the adoption of a final budget. So our plan is on May 11th, we will have a comprehensive presentation on the forecasting of the 2021 budget. On May 18th at our business meeting, we'll ask the receiver to approve a preliminary budget. We'll continue to work and refine that budget May into June, and at our June business meeting, we will adopt a final budget. Certainly, Mayor, in the current economic conditions, we are concerned and we have a lot of work to do, specifically on the revenue side. Our revenue projections pre-COVID were in a much better position than the projections we're using today as we formulate our 2021 budget. So we're looking at all our revenues, we're looking at all our expenses, and we're looking at it twofold to ensure one of two things. One is that, what would there have been a structural deficit pre-COVID? And then secondly, what is the impact by the COVID to our budgeting process? And then, we're going to have to make decisions, both short-term and long-term, on how we move forward. And we have to do our best to protect the infrastructure of our education in the Harrisburg School District. And we're going to have to be versatile. We're going to have to continue to think outside the box. I can tell you in the coming weeks, we're going to be discussing other programming that we're working on for the Harrisburg School District. And again, there's no doubt, Mayor, we're in difficult times, and it's going to take all of us pulling together to figure out what the right steps are as we move forward financially.
Well, thank you for that. I think you're definitely asking the right questions, and I know it is going to be difficult, and I'm hoping that everyone can be involved. We'll make note of the meetings that you mentioned. Any final thoughts or updates that you'd like to convey today?
Just quickly, I just want to mention the learning journals have been mailed to homes throughout the city of Harrisburg, and I wanted to say thank you to the Harrisburg School Foundation for their support with the Learning Journal initiative. And again, the journal is meant to be a journal book that will allow our students to reflect on their learning, but also reflect on the current times we are in, which at some point we'll look back in a fortunate way. These are historical times we're in. It's a once-in-century type pandemic that we're all working through together. But again, we want to give our students a way to continue to read, continue to write, but also continue to reflect on the times we're in. And our hope, again, is once we're back to a normal school schedule, they'll return those journals, and we'll be able to do a deeper reflection as part of our transition program back to a normal school setting, hopefully at the start of the 2021 school year. So, and again, Mayor, thank you for having me on today and allowing me to share these school district updates.
Yes, and thank you very much for joining us, and we appreciate the updates. We're going to turn now to Amy Hill. And Amy is wearing two hats today, both as the Broad Street Market Board Chair and as the Community Engagement Director for the Central PA Food Bank. But I want to start with the Broad Street Market. The Broad Street Market is such an essential business incubator and essentially a grocery store for the city. And I thought it would be appropriate to get an update. Some people may not have been to the market in quite some time and may not know what the market's doing. So Amy, let's start with basically, how is the market operating in this current climate and under these current social distancing protocols? And welcome.
Thanks for the opportunity to wear two hats on your program today, Mayor. They're actually two hats, but they're not entirely unrelated. One of the most wonderful things about the Broad Street Market, it is truly an oasis in a food desert. It's a place where people can buy fresh food, fruits and vegetables and meats and dairy and all those kinds of things, walking distance to hundreds, if not thousands of residents. So we're happy to be there in that capacity, as well as what we were able to do to be a place for small business to thrive and to really show off what the best that they have to offer. It has been a challenge, to say the least, to keep the Broad Street Market open. We felt strongly that we needed to keep at least a few of those vendors open so people would not lose access to that shopping opportunity in that part of the city. But what do you do with a building that's 150 years old, that's kind of crowded on a good day? How do we maintain the social distancing that keeps people safe, keeps our shoppers safe, keeps the vendors and their staff safe? So we put in a few protocols to allow the market to remain functional and people to access those vendors. So what you will see is there's two different buildings in the market, and there's two different protocols for those buildings. The brick building, which is on the 6th Street side of the market, is open. But we will allow only 50 shoppers at a time into the building. So that will make sure that there's plenty of space for people to move around, for people to respect and maintain that 6-foot distance in between the other shoppers. And we're going to have marks on the floor to kind of, so you don't have to guess how far away 6 feet is. Everyone is required to wear a mask. Whether you're shopping or you're one of the workers there, everyone will have a mask. So we encourage people who are coming to the market to bring their own mask, but we may have a few at the door because we will not let you in without a mask. That's part of the rule. And we think that if everybody kind of respects this, that will certainly allow the shoppers to get what they need and maintain that safe environment. We also hope that people will not bring the whole family. We know that the market is a destination, it's a gathering space, it's all of those things. But right now we can't, it's not safe for it to be what it normally is. So we asked them to bring maybe one person can come on behalf of the family and do all of the shopping. We took out all of the chairs and tables, so there is no lingering, there's no place to sit down and enjoy your meal. We need people to get in, do their shopping, and then get out. So the brick building has where most of the grocery type vendors are, and there's a handful of them that are still operational in there, as well as some of the prepared food vendors. So those who are looking for a whoopie pie or a pretzel or a sub or some fried chicken, all of those kinds of things are still available. But again, you go in, you place your order and take it out, take it home. The Stone building is on the 3rd Street side. It is almost exclusively prepared food vendors in there, kind of more of a food court, food hall kind of a thing when things are open. But we are not allowing any customers to enter into the building, but many of the vendors there are doing curbside pickup and even delivery. So we have a list on our social media and on our website where you can figure out who is still operating, how you can contact them and place your order. So we encourage people to do that. That's one way we can support these small businesses is to continue to patronize them. I know I have my favorites that I look forward to every weekend at the market. So we're able to kind of keep that going. I know how much those vendors appreciate it. You know, the market is made up of 42 separate independent small business owners. Each one of those stands is a separate business. So doing what we can to kind of continue to support them is something that we are very grateful for from the board's perspective, but certainly I know those vendors are very grateful.
Thank you, Amy. That was a very comprehensive answer. Let's talk about a few of the vendors. I know we can't talk about all of them, and I know there is a list of who's open and who isn't open on your website, and I've been following you on Facebook and through social media. I'll just say from my own personal experience, I found it incredibly easy to order online from Radish and Rye. You can pull up right outside, and they'll bring the groceries to you. You just open your door, and they'll deliver them. I was able to get fresh spinach, and I know they have eggs and milk and all sorts of basic staples. So it was a very easy way to shop. What are some of the other vendors doing, and what has their experience been? At least in terms of positive anecdotes that we can let people know that how business is adapting and occurring.
So in the brick building, RG Hummers Meats is open. He's another one where you can kind of contact them ahead of time if you have a special cut of meat that you're looking for, or a certain amount that you can place an order. But you can still walk up to the counter there, wearing your mask, of course, and respecting the 6-foot distance, and just buy like you normally would from Hummers Meats. Lebanon Valley Meats is also open, kind of the same situation. You can walk up to the counter there and buy that. Putting my other hat on with the food bank, those are examples of vendors who do take food stamps. They're set up for the EBT, so that is one place where they can, people who use that and rely on that to help stretch their grocery bill, they're still operational in doing that. Green Ridge Acres is another produce vendor in addition to Radish and Rye. Green Ridge is open. You can go and choose your vegetables right there. Radish and Rye is operating exclusively online with the curbside delivery. So their stand, as you know it, is not accessible to the public. But if you get online and give it a couple of hours ahead of time, they've been pretty quick to fulfill orders. There are also a number of vendors in the brick building that are selling the prepared foods. So Lil's Pretzels is open, Smucker's Chicken, Conestoga Cafe, Fisher's Deli. Those are the few that I'm aware of that are doing it. But again, go in, place your order, respect a distance, and then take it home with you and enjoy it at home. The Stone Building, I'm aware of, again, 100% curbside pickup, but Raising the Bar is doing curbside pickup. Yami Korean, Tep's Seafood, Philo, and Ouija's Cochina is all serving stuff. So a wide variety of favorites on that list. So again, contact them. They have lots of information on their own social media outlets to tell you exactly what's on the menu, what the specials are, and so they're operational that way.
Thank you. You're making me hungry. It's almost lunchtime, and I'm thinking takeout from the market could be the way to go. Let me just ask as a final question for the market. Well, first of all, many of these vendors are going to be eligible for this new Impact Harrisburg City of Harrisburg loan program that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. So I'm hoping they'll apply, and I'm hoping it'll be a way that we can help support them during these times. But if people are at home watching this, maybe they're not quite comfortable yet going out. Is there a way that we can help the market generally, or get involved with the market in a way that would be supportive of these vendors during this health emergency?
Absolutely. So I think some of the vendors are also selling gift certificates and things that you could purchase something like that. So when the world opens up again, you could go and enjoy them. That's, again, kind of like a positive way that you could support those individual vendors. But the market in general, we do have a Friends of the Market program, which has been set up for a while now. And what that is allows people from the community to donate to a sort of a special fund that helps maintain some of those special things that keep the market looking beautiful, functioning well, keeps the lights on, those kinds of things. So that is one way that helps everybody in the market, is to become a friend of the market. And just one other note that I think is important. If you are open to going out and doing that, some of the vendors at the market have the things in stock that are maybe tough to come by in the larger grocery stores, things like eggs and certain kinds of meats and that sort of thing. So again, if you are looking to do that, don't overlook the market as a source of good food.
Wonderful. Thanks. I hope everyone will consider being a friend of the market, and we really appreciate those updates. Let's turn now to the Central PA Food Bank, since we're so fortunate to have you this morning. And let's just talk generally. I mean, obviously, I'm sure the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank has been working overtime throughout this crisis. But can you just talk a little bit in broad ways about what it's doing to help?
So with record numbers of unemployment, as you can imagine, that puts many, many, many people facing the question of, am I going to have enough to eat? Probably for the first time in their lives. People are finding that those unemployment checks don't go quite as far. And in the first few weeks after the shutdown, many people had not received any unemployment, or the stimulus checks hadn't hit yet. So we saw a drastic increase in the number of people seeking food assistance in those first few weeks. Thankfully, it's slowing down a little bit, but it is still significantly more than the people that we expect to serve, just a few months ago. So we are ramping up our efforts to make food available. We have moved our operation away from our traditional location to an off-site location that is a much, much bigger warehouse kind of setting. So our volunteers can be appropriately socially distant. We make everybody wear masks. There's a lot of hand sanitizer that gets used during the packing operations. We rely so heavily on those volunteers to keep those boxes packed and out the door. In the month of March, we distributed 50,000 crisis response boxes. So this was like a 20, 30-pound box of food, shelf-stable food, all kinds of different really good and nutritious things that we were able to get out. We don't serve clients directly. Like many people might not understand this about the food bank. We are sort of the central distributor, the warehousing operation, but most of the food gets delivered by wonderful partnerships like you already mentioned with the community policing. A special shout out to Blake Lynch for organizing all of that. I know thousands of families have benefited from that outreach. But we have many other partners in the city of Harrisburg that are really going above and beyond to make sure that food is still available and accessible to people who need it, and at the same time doing all the appropriate social distancing so people can feel safe. The Salvation Army comes to mind, the Downtown Daily Bread comes to mind. There's many other partners. I couldn't possibly name them all, but they're all doing something that allows for people to get the curbside takeout. Some are doing a drive-through distribution where you kind of shout your name to a volunteer when you arrive in your vehicle. You pop the trunk and a different volunteer puts the boxes of food and the bags full of fresh produce and a gallon jug of milk in the car, and you drive away and you don't actually have to touch anybody to do that. So we are doing the best that we can to kind of maintain that level. It's a challenge. The food supply has been indeed interrupted by this situation. So we're doing the best that we can to kind of keep the flow of food going. I think there's a few things going on with the federal policies that are going to allow a lot more food that's at the farms, kind of stuck on the farms now, package it in a way that families can enjoy it, and we'll be able to get it into their hands as those programs start to refine themselves.
Great, thank you for that. Thanks for mentioning Salvation Army and some of the other places where people can get food assistance. One question I have in my mind is really, can you quantify just how much demand has increased during this emergency over how things were, say, a year ago? I think that would be helpful. And then, are you able to keep up with the demand? Because I think there's definitely a perception out there. I certainly know that when we do our food giveaways with the community policing, it's gone very quickly. And so can you keep up with demand, and what is the percentage increase that you've seen?
So looking again at the month of March for 2020 compared to the month of March of 2019, we are close to 50% more pounds of food that we distributed in that period of time, which is, comes to the tune of millions of pounds of food. So it's significant increase in the amount of food that we've been able to distribute. As far as the demand, it kind of varies from one agency to the next. I've heard some agencies report 4 times the number of clients showing up. Others, maybe 10% more, or 20% more. But I haven't heard of a single one yet who's reporting fewer people showing up for help. So we know the demand is great, and the need is widespread. Part of our mission is kind of helping people know where they need to go to get this food. So while we are working out all the details to keep up with the demand, we don't want anybody to be fearful about approaching one of our agencies for help. That's what we're here for. We're going to do the best that we can to make sure we do that. We hope that people have patience as things in the food supply chain kind of work themselves out. Just today, a lot of talk about getting more and more of the fresh food into the system. We've got lots of shelf-stable food now, but again, it goes fast. We pack it, we send it out, it gets distributed. It's just not sitting anywhere. It moves in and out of the warehouse very quickly. So I know that's frustrating for a lot of people. You wait in line for a long time, and it goes so fast. So we're trying to keep up with that. Some of those agencies are adding additional distributions. I think almost all of them are doing kind of appointment only type of things. So they know exactly who's getting it, all those kinds of things. So we are doing our best to do that. It's going to get better. It's already starting to get better. We're starting to see the truckloads coming into the food bank of the delivery. And I think that's going to be even better as the growing season in Pennsylvania, comes upon us. That will mean there'll be a lot more local food that's available to us. And these federal programs will allow those farms, because that's the other tragedy in all of this is there's produce on the vine that's not getting picked. There's milk being dumped out. This is criminal. It breaks my heart to read these news stories because we could use that food so much. But some of these programs will allow the distributors and the packagers to kind of shift gears so they can put the milk into 1-gallon containers instead of the massive things that they send to schools and restaurants and things like that. So some of this is an issue of the packaging and the distribution of the food. So all that stuff is feverishly in the background trying to resolve all that stuff. So it will get better.
Thank you for that hopeful message and for all that you do. A final question then, if people are watching this, how can they support the food bank? And are there any volunteer opportunities at this time?
Yeah, we definitely can use volunteers. Volunteerism is really at the core of our success. So we encourage people to go to our website, centralpafoodbank.org. And they can sign up there and kind of indicate their interest. One of the challenges of the volunteering is we kind of have to wait until we know a truckload of food is coming in and we have work for them to do. But if you put your name in, express your interest, you will get contacted as soon as possible by one of our volunteer coordinators. We can use their help for sure. And the other way that people can help is the most helpful really is the financial contributions. Because of the way things are in the food supply system now, we end up having to purchase food very low cost on the wholesale market and that kind of thing. But we can't do we can't receive the donations and things like we have in prior to all of this. So financial donations, anybody who's got a little bit to spare, maybe they don't need all of their stimulus check, we'll take it, and we can take such a little bit goes a very, very long way in what we're able to do.
Thank you. I hope people will be able to help, and we appreciate your time this afternoon. We're going to turn now to Natalie Falatek, who is the first vice president and the director of the SBA Guaranteed Lending for Penn Bank. Natalie, it's great that you're here. I know that people are hearing a lot in the news about the Paycheck Protection Program. It appears that Congress just authorized additional money. There has been talk about whether or not it's really trickling down to small businesses or just the larger ones. So I thought it would be important to get your perspective. And maybe we could just start by talking about, what is the Paycheck Protection Program and who is eligible to apply?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for having me. So the Paycheck Protection Program is the loan program with a forgiveness component that was authorized by the CARES Act March 31st of this year. And really it's designed, for the benefit of the small business owners' employees and to keep them employed and receiving paychecks during this time when the business may be shut down or there may be limited work to do. If the employer uses the funds to keep employees paid, then a portion or all of the loan may be forgiven.
It's an incredibly powerful tool, and it has the potential to, of course, take people off unemployment, to keep them employed, even during this time where we have a stay-at-home order and not all businesses are able to open. Can you talk a little bit about how Penn Bank specifically has been reaching out to small businesses, and maybe anecdotally share a little bit about how it's working for some of those businesses?
Certainly. So I am pleased to say that funds from the CARES Act are hitting customers' accounts. They started hitting their accounts early last week, and are continuing to trickle in. We've dispersed and closed almost all of what we're calling round one of our loans. And the largest portion of those dollars, now Penn Bank is spread out across the footprint of Pennsylvania, but those dollars, for the most part, stayed in Pennsylvania and went to small business owners. Our loan size was less than the national average. We did about 2,150 of these loans in round one, and attributed that we touched about 55,000 employees within the surrounding area, and employees of small businesses whose jobs or paychecks were saved as a result of this program. So we have, as soon as Penn Bank is a preferred lender with the SBA, and that's one of the reasons that we were able to participate in the program and really have kind of early approval to participate in the program. So, as an experienced SBA lender, as soon as we heard that this program was coming out and we were going to be able to partner with the SBA to administer it and put it on, we started to reach out to our customers, gather information. And initially, that was first few days, we were talking to them about both the Paycheck Protection Program loan and the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program and that grant program that was also authorized by the CARES Act, and trying to help them decide which was a better fit, how to take care of their employees, how to take care of themselves during this time, and how to apply for whichever program it was that they decided was best for their organization. So that was really the first week of it. It was me and another colleague, spaced far apart, but sitting in the same room, talking through this, talking to borrowers. And our team really continued to grow and spread out across, we have a really fortunate setup here where we can, everybody else is working from home. So we can take the team that's working on this and spread them out across 2 buildings and 4 floors, and get everybody far enough apart, but still be close enough that when there are questions, and when we have to, kind of assembly line this process to keep it moving and efficient, we can do that. So that was the first week. Applications and demand was what we expected it to be. It was rolling in. And then, as soon as we were able to go live and start reserving funding for our businesses, we did that. And it was, in the early morning hours of April 3rd, when we funded our first loan, and funding for the SBA means we got a loan number through the SBA, and we reserved funding for that first borrower. And it was kind of this moment of triumph. And then we just started, plugging them in and getting as many borrowers as we could through the process. That was our goal from the beginning, was that we needed to work around the clock and get as many of these borrowers approved through the SBA as we could, so that we could get cash in their hands as quickly as possible.
That's great. And I think I read that the average loan nationally was something over $200,000. So if you're under that, that means you're probably reaching even smaller businesses in Pennsylvania. let me ask: is it too late now that we understand there's going to be a new wave of funding? If I'm a business owner and I missed out up to this point, is it too late, or what should I do?
So it's not too late. We are waiting on the president to sign the bill that will refund the Paycheck Protection Program loan, and as well as put additional funding into the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program and that grant program through that. So it's not too late. We're waiting on the president to sign that piece of legislation, and then we're prepared to work through the weekend, and as long as the funds last, to fund every single loan that we possibly can. I've talked to other community bankers in the area, and they're gearing up for the same thing. So it's not too late, but you do need to act quickly. Contact your local bank, contact a local lender that you know is participating in the program, and go through their application process, and do that sooner rather than later. We expect that once authorized, these funds are going to go very, very quickly. And so you need to do it now so that you get your name on that list.
Yeah, for this program in particular, you do have to have a relationship with a bank like Mid-Penn. I know that for the city is specifically trying to help target small businesses that maybe don't have those same relationships in place and don't have access. But if you don't have a relationship with a bank, or maybe if your bank isn't participating in the program or not getting back to you about the program, what should people do?
So, we've found that there's a target population that's kind of been left out of this because they don't have an existing relationship with the bank that's participating in. And Mid-Penn Bank is doing their best to help those borrowers. So if you're local or you're around a Mid-Penn Bank location, visit your local branch through the drive-through. Our drive-throughs are open, or call. There's a number on our website for our hotline that you can call. And we will walk you through the process, and we will help you with the application. And you're welcome to apply to Mid-Penn Bank. We're going to do our best to help those customers. But, my advice is reach out to a smaller community bank that's in your area and see what type of assistance that they can help you. Few of them are taking outside applications.
And just in case people are a little confused about the size that is sort of required, if you're a relatively small business with a relatively small payroll, is there some sort of minimum threshold for requiring or applying for one of these loans?
There isn't. We were looking through applications this morning, and prepping for this second wave to come in, and we have applications from $600 to the $10 million limit. From our local small businesses. So you have to be an operating company, or an independent contractor or sole proprietor. And you have to have, either be self-employed, so you're a team of one, or you have to have one other employee. You have to have been in business on February 15th and have payroll as of February 15th. And if you do that, you're eligible to apply.
And what sorts of materials, can you walk people through just a little bit the application process, what they have to prepare, how long it takes, and what they could expect?
Yeah, so the application process should be relatively simple. It may vary a little bit bank to bank, and depending upon at what stages they're collecting certain information from borrowers. But the SBA Paycheck Protection Program loan application is a really simple, it's a 4-page document, but 2 pages of it is instructions and disclosures. So it's a really simple 2-page application for the borrower. And then they're asked to show some work. I say it's, like grade school, show your math. They're asked to show the work for how they arrived at the calculation for their maximum loan amount. And that's kind of what you need to apply. After that, it's likely the bank will reach out to you to get some additional supporting documentation, if we don't have your entity documents and follow our Know Your Customer rules. But it should be a relatively simple and straightforward process, regardless of the financial institution that you're applying with. And we have, hotline call center workers who are there to answer your questions as you work through the application. for our process, we have an upload portal that you can upload the application, or you can email it to one of our representatives who will help you as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Natalie. And I guess one of the real benefits of this loan program is that it can convert to a grant under certain circumstances, provided that the money is used in accordance with guidelines. So let's just talk for a moment about that. How does this end up being forgiven in the end, and what tips do you have for small businesses to ensure that will happen?
Yeah. So, my first tip, and I always recommend that if you're working with an accountant or someone who's helping you with your business financials, they're a great resource too. And you should talk to them as well, because a lot of the decisions for how you're going to use these funds and how that plays into the forgiveness aspect of it is going to be an independent business decision. You're going to have to look at what your needs are and what is most important, and kind of triage that first for your business. But this program is, it's the Paycheck Protection Program. So I start by telling everyone that I'm working with that if you want to get the most forgiven, you need to bring your employees back to work sooner rather than later. And you need to restore your total, your body count, your employee count, and you need to restore, or as close to it as you can, their what they were earning before this all happened. So you need to restore their wages, and you need to restore the number of people that are at your place of employment as quickly as possible to get the most forgiveness. That said, you can use the loan proceeds on other eligible costs, like paying your rent or your mortgage interest or your utilities, some of those overhead costs. But at least 75% of the loan needs to be used for payroll. And you need to understand how, things like paying your mortgage interest or your rent can impact the forgiveness aspect of the loan. I'll also say that we're still awaiting guidance from the SBA on how banks will process the forgiveness applications, how that process will work. We're still waiting on further clarification on exactly some of those calculation ratios, but you should be tracking your expenses. If you received PPP loan funds, track your expenses, know what you're using the money for, track your payroll, track what people made before this happened and what they're making now. That way, when it comes time, regardless of kind of what the final calculations work out to be, you have the information that you need in order to complete that application.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's sometimes easier said than done to bring employees back, especially under a stay-at-home order where many businesses can't operate. That may be part of the eagerness on the part of some businesses to try and get back to work sooner rather than later. But even if it doesn't convert to a grant, we're still talking about a very low interest loan here, 1%, right? Which is incredible, and a possible injection of valuable cash that can be used, as you say, for all sorts of things, from rent to capital. Do you have any final thoughts on the program or information you think you'd like to convey that would be useful to business owners here in Harrisburg and the region?
Yeah, I'll just stress the sense of urgency. If these are funds that you need, make your application sooner rather than later. And, work with your banker. Call the hotline. Don't avoid it because you have questions. We're here to help. With us or with another institution. We really just want to help our small businesses during this time. So if you have questions, reach out to our website, call our hotline. We're happy to help you through those processes.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you to Penn Bank for all you're doing to help businesses here in Harrisburg and Central PA. I'm going to turn now to Sheila Dow Ford, who is the Executive Director of Impact Harrisburg, and Ms. Nona Watson, who is our Economic Development Director here at the city. And that conversation was really, I think, a good segue into what we're trying to do here at the Neighborhood Business Stabilization Fund program. We talked a little bit about this last week, and we promised it was coming, and indeed it is here. And if you go to the impactharrisburg.org website, that's impactharrisburg.org, you will find a very simple button to click to take you to this grant program, and then you will find a very simple form that you can fill out online. It actually can be done in under a half an hour, especially if you have the information needed with you, and we'll talk about that. And we are ready to take those applications, and we're really excited. So you can also link to it from the city's website, harrisburgpa.gov, but it's being administered by Impact Harrisburg, and I recommend people just go directly to impactharrisburg.org. Let's just review things very basically for people who maybe didn't see it. I can also say, Sheila, we did send a letter to 1,750 businesses encouraging them to apply, so they're going to be getting that this week. But let's talk about just basically, let's start with who is eligible to apply for this new grant program by the city and Impact Harrisburg.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor Pappenfuss, and good afternoon to the other guests who are on the program today. I'm pleased to be able to report that the Neighborhood Business Stabilization Program is up and running officially as of 12 a.m. this morning. And so we are receiving applications online. We have a number of them. I'm getting an update. And the point is that of those 1,750 small businesses within the city of Harrisburg, we are having a very robust sense of the interest in the Neighborhood Business Stabilization Program. And we look forward to just encouraging more small businesses to go out to impactharrisburg.org and to apply. In terms of eligibility, we talked about this last week, and I'm happy to go through this. It's really a very basic list. Again, for those businesses, for anyone who's listening and who might have an interest for him or herself, or who may know of a person who is the owner or who works for a business that might well be eligible. So the program is intended for city licensed neighborhood businesses, which includes not only the for-profits and the LLCs, et cetera, but also nonprofits that are located within the city of Harrisburg. And we have a strong preference for businesses that are owned and operated by city residents, and for MBE, WBE, and DBEs. So a couple of other points, okay? The businesses should have under $1 million in most recently reported annual gross income. This is important to note because we have larger small businesses and we have smaller small businesses. So while we ask that you stay under that $1 million threshold, it's important to note that at least 50% of the total grant funds, and we have the $1 million grant fund, so 50% of the total grant funds awarded will be directed to businesses with an annual gross revenue of $500,000 or less, because the objective was to actually reach out to the smaller small businesses. And so that's real important. So once again, we're encouraging small businesses to apply. You also need to have a demonstrated or projected reduction in your monthly revenue of at least 25% or more as a result of the COVID-19 situation, the pandemic. You need to also be able to demonstrate that the grant funds will be used in promoting the interest of this program and of your business. And I know that Nona Watson, the city's economic development director, will go into that component of this program a little bit more in terms of what the grant funds can be used for. But I think it's also important to point out that as Natalie talked about the SBA loans programs, the PPE and the other program, that those businesses in Harrisburg who might have applied for a PPP loan with their lender, they can also apply for our grant program. And this is a grant. It's not a loan program. It is in fact a grant. As long as there's not any duplication in terms of what the loan will be used for, the coverage of expenses. And it should be noted that we might give preference, though, to small businesses for whom the SBA loan program is not practicable for various reasons. And we're very pleased that the federal government has in fact decided upon a second round of funding for small businesses. We would also, though, encourage small businesses within the city of Harrisburg, who really do really form the backbone. As Nona Watson, our economic development director, has said on several occasions, small businesses form the backbone of American society. They are a part of the framework, the business framework that employ our friends, our families, our residents, members of our community. This is really important. When Governor Wolf had to issue the stay-at-home order in mid-March, we understood the necessity of it. We have a crisis on our hands. What we are doing in terms of this joint effort on the part of Impact Harrisburg and the city of Harrisburg is really creating an opportunity to provide a small cash infusion of up to $10,000 into small businesses, so that when the time is right, they will be able to reopen their doors, to rehire, or to retain staff, or to keep their doors open. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Sheila. I think that was very clear on who is eligible, and I am very hopeful that all of the businesses in Harrisburg that are eligible will apply, even if we can't fund them all with this initial round of $1 million. We're hopeful that we can find additional funding sources, and it's important for us to really know the total need that is out there. So much like we've done a business survey, this program I think will help show us in very stark, clear terms exactly how our businesses are faring and what the needs are in Harrisburg. One obvious difference between this and the PPP that we just talked about is that the PPP is forward-looking and must be spent over the course of an 8-week period of time, which can be difficult for businesses to meet if they aren't currently open. Our program is flexible and is backward-looking, so we, for instance, can help you with your rent for or your costs, utilities, et cetera, from that period of, say, March 15th to April 15th, which you've already been impacted by, but which wouldn't be eligible for PPP. So just some thoughts there. We're going to turn to Nona Watson now. You've been well set up there and described by Sheila, Nona. But maybe you could talk a little bit more about not only what can the funds be used for, but how what you're hearing from the business community via our survey and other forms in terms of what those needs are and how we're trying to match the needs with the uses of the fund.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Because some of our businesses have had to close their doors, and then there are others who are experiencing a decrease in foot traffic, we know that the bills still have to get paid, Mayor. We know that payroll still has to be met. So what we determined, the City of Harrisburg and Impact Harrisburg, is that grant funds should be used or will be used for operating costs, operating expenses. And these expenses include rental or mortgage payments, utilities, outstanding vendor invoices, and payroll. We absolutely want our the employees to be able to return to work. To what we're hearing out there, like our survey, of course, they're saying that they need these additional funds, and they're saying that they really need the support of the community, and we know that. And as Amy was saying, we really need to find ways to support them. Many of our businesses, even if you go on our website, you will see that there is a list of businesses, and the list shows how or exactly what these businesses need. Some of them are, as Amy said, they're selling their gift cards, they have online services. delivery and curbside services, and even discounts. Some are using social media. So we want to make sure that we focus in on supporting our local neighborhood businesses.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Nona.
Nona.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And there's so much need out there. We're really hopeful that we can inject this grant into the business community and into Harrisburg writ large here quickly. And that's why it's important that people apply. I know we're targeting a early May date for the initial distribution of funds. And as a result, we really want to encourage people to apply today, over the course of the weekend, next week, as soon as possible, so that we can quantify the full needs. Sheila, I'm going to come back to you, and we'll just end here by having a little conversation about what people should expect when they go to fill out the form. One thing I'll say is that if you go to impactharrisburg.org, you can actually see the entire form before you fill it out. You can click through it and see all the questions, and then you can go gather your information, and then come back and fill it out. You can also see the guidelines and more information about some of the things that we're talking. But Sheila, if you could walk us through, if I'm a business, I definitely want to apply for this. What am I going to have to get together, and what am I going to expect when I come to fill out this form?
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So what we have done is to make the process as user-friendly, I think, as is practicable. So we asked, there is, as you indicated, Mayor Papenfuss, if you go to impactharrisburg.org, you will find the application. And it is as I indicated, very user-friendly. You'll see a page of instructions in terms of the process. We lay that out as basically an FAQ, and it says complete the application and provide a copy of the following: your most recent city business privilege or mercantile tax return, and a valid photo ID showing your current address. We opened officially today, and we are considering applications as they come in, which is not to say that it's on a rolling basis, but which is to say that as you just fill out your application, if you cannot get in immediately, continue to try. Thus far, we have not had any hiccups, but we really want to have as many applications as we possibly can. We just ask for your patience. Then as you go to the moving forward, in terms of the applicant information, and some of you might be online, I'm actually looking at a printout of the application. And but we encourage people to fill the application out online. If you cannot, however, you can download a PDF version. There is one that you can fill out and mail in, or email in rather. Okay, so it asks for just your business name, your federal EIN or tax ID, and social security number. Once again, it's real important that you know that you need to have your city business privilege and mercantile tax ID number. If you don't have that, please contact the City of Harrisburg. The application process is open for until about May 6th or thereabouts. So please, take the time to get the information that you need and be very, what I would call very linear, but what I mean is very deliberate about just pulling together the information, because it's not a lot, but you really need to be able to just have it there. Then you need to just identify your business address, the form of business that you have. Once again, it's about both for-profits and nonprofits. Primary contact, business phone. Give a brief description of your business, the date it was established. Give us your annual gross revenue for 2019. Talk about whether or not your business is a certified MBE, WBE, or DBE. And then identify whether or not the primary owner of the business is a Harrisburg resident, a city resident, which is not applicable, by the way, for nonprofit applicants. And then give the primary business owner's name, address, the number of full-time employees as of, and this is real important here, as of February the 15th, 2020. What we're trying to do is get some comparative data so that we can see what your business was like before the announcement of the COVID emergency. and what it was like a year ago. And so we're trying to just get some information so that we can engage in an evaluation by comparing where you are now as to where you were before. So we asked the number of full-time employees as of February 15th, number of part-time employees as of that same date, the number of full-time employees and part-time as of April 15th. Then we want to know your total gross revenue at this time last year, that's March 15th, 2019 through April 15th, and total gross revenue for January 2020. Once again, those are common sense questions so that we will have evaluative information that we can use to really undertake our evaluation so that we are well informed and it's fair, but it's not an overly burdensome process. It's asking you to give us the information that we need. We'll ask the same kinds of questions around total gross revenue, actual gross revenue, and then we want to ask some questions about your business, the day-to-day or the fixed costs that are associated with your business. If you are a renter, we want to know the rent that you paid or that's due from March 20, that may still be due from March 2020. If you own the building, do you have a mortgage payment? I want you to know that if you have circumstances that require that you explain some of the questions that are in these boxes, I'm up to box 25 now, by the way. If you have that, then write it. There is a form for you to describe what your circumstances are. So use that to explain anything that you might have put into one of these boxes that you think requires some additional explanation. We want to know your payroll expenses for March 20, the projected payroll expenses for April 20. What about your utilities? Everybody has to pay a utility bill. So what were your utility bills for March 20? What about your gas utilities paid or due for March 20? And then what about Capital Region water utilities and the city refuse bill that's paid or due? And then moving on, and we're almost done. This is how straightforward this is. These are the kinds of documents and the kinds of questions that you will have kept anyway on a ledger, because these are the recurring expenses, the fixed costs that every business has to pay on a monthly basis. And then those expenses that you might have for goods and supplies, paid or due for March 2020, service contracts, security, cleaning, pest control, any other security contracts or service contracts that you might have. And then other vendor invoices. And then this is where you can explain a little bit as we move forward. I'm now up to, and we're almost done, I'm up to number 35 on the application. But these are very quick questions. Please provide, and this is the one, it says, please provide a brief narrative of how your business has been impacted by the current health emergency by COVID-19. And then you need to just give us a sense of how that your business, in your own words, how has your business been impacted? Don't worry about making it into a novel. Just be straightforward, just be clear, be concise, tell us your story and fit it in that box, okay? And then tell us how much grant assistance you are requesting, and then how you intend to use any grant funding that you may receive, and how the grant assistance that you will receive or may receive will benefit your business, and the objectives of the Neighborhood Business Stabilization Program. And then finally, we get to the last page, which is the certification. And it's a certification that the information that you've provided is true and that it is accurate, and that you will use any grant funding that you might receive in the manner in which you have stated that you will. And that you will use your best practices to do so, and that you will cooperate with us, that is Impact Harrisburg and the City of Harrisburg, if we, in any audit or business review that we might have to undergo. And that's it. I've actually walked through the entire grant application. As I've indicated, it is a very straightforward document that really is a little bit like sitting down and paying your monthly bills. So just as you would do that on a regular basis, I would encourage you, the small city businesses to do the same and to fill out your application.
Thank you, Sheila. You did a great job of walking through it, and it really is that easy, that simple, that straightforward. We tried to make it so that any business owner could do it. You don't need a professional accountant to fill it out for you. And the questions, as you say, are basic kitchen table type questions that any business owner really should know the answer to. Eligibility-wise, really, most business, the overwhelming majority of those 1,750 businesses in Harrisburg will be eligible, provided they have suffered an impact of 25% or greater due to this crisis. And I'm hopeful that everyone will apply, and that if we need additional resources, Impact Harrisburg and the city will work to find those. It should also be noted that our program does have diversity goals. There is a preference for minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, disadvantaged businesses, as well as businesses owned by city residents, and that sets it apart as well, I think, from other programs, which on the larger level, maybe both are not trickling down to the smallest of the businesses, as well as maybe not representing the real diversity that we have amongst business owners in the city. So we're proud of that. And again, the message is we're open. File your applications and seek them out now on impactharrisburg.org. Moment, it's been a busy show with lots of information. So, but we will take time for a few questions if some have come in. Please relay them.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Yes, we have a few questions here. The first one is about the Broad Street Market for Amy. What are the hours of operation? I've heard about meat factories closing. Has that affected the days and times that the market is open?
Thanks. That's a very good question. So the market is open on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday from 7 a.m. To 5 p.m. So that is kind of the typical market hours, but 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. The challenges with some of the meat producing organizations that have had to shut down has not affected the market's hours, but it might affect what the choices are at the butcher shop.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. The next question is for Natalie about the Paycheck Protection Program. If my application for the program gets rejected, can I apply again?
It would depend upon the reason why your application was rejected. If it was just incomplete, or if the first bank that you applied at did not have time to process it, you certainly can apply again. If it was for some sort of eligibility reason, there are a couple eligibility questions that the SBA asks there concerning prior convictions and prior defaults on SBA loans. If it was for that, then no, you would not be able to apply again.
All right, thank you. And one more question here about the Central PA Food Bank for Amy. The question is, how can an organization become a partner of the Central PA Food Bank?
I would encourage the organization to contact our main office. They could get the information through our website, but they can certainly call our main office. That number is 717-564-1700. There's a process involved in becoming a partner agency. There's certain standards that we expect and that sort of thing. But again, right now, while we're looking at all of these different places of need, certainly worth getting connected to us. We would welcome that phone call.
Okay, thank you. We have a question that's just come in from Donna. She asks, no business revenue under $500,000 is eligible for the impact grant?
Sheila, you can take that. Or I can start and just say, no, you not only are you eligible if you have business revenues under $500,000, but we are making sure that at least half of the grant fund is going to businesses that have revenues under $500,000. So really, the Neighborhood Business Stabilization Program is designed for the very smallest of the small businesses, and there's no minimum revenue threshold, and we will focus on those that have gross revenues of under $500,000.
Okay.
Okay.
And Mayor, I just wanted to take a moment. There was a lot of websites that were mentioned, so
Yeah.
to just kind of highlight them for our viewers, harrisburgpa.gov is the city's website. ImpactHarrisburg.org was mentioned as well for the the application. CentralPAFoodBank.org. www.hbgsd.us is the school district. And also volunteer opportunities with the United Way of the Capital Region can be found at uwcr.org. And for those who have questions about Mid-Penn Bank, midpennbank.com.
Great. Thank you, Momin. And that's probably a good way to wrap up. I think we did a lot of information today, and people may want to watch this on replay. And we would recommend watching all these Facebook Live sessions on replay, actually on YouTube. We will edit them. We will put them up on YouTube, and you can find them as well as our public meetings, city council meetings, et cetera, all on the city's YouTube channel. And that's just youtube.com/WHBG20. So look there. We'll also share this information again. If you know a business that may benefit from either of these programs, we hope you'll spread the word, and we hope you will share those links. And until next time, I'm Mayor Eric Papenfuss saying thank you for participating in today's community conversation, and we will see you next week at noon for another community conversation on Facebook Live. Thanks for watching.